Hello, and welcome to this Nora startup webinar. Really wonderful to have you with us today. Whether you're seeing this live or whether you're watching this on our website, this is Nora startup, and today is about data sharing. So just a quick introduction from me. At a young age, I was taught the importance of sharing. Since I have two brothers, my parents always told me that I had to be less selfish and think about them too. You have to share, that's what they said. Sharing has a lot of benefits. It's one of the great sources of what makes us happy. And some would say sharing our progress is an important part of what makes us human. The world economy is so tightly connected. If we think about recent events in logistics, when the large container ship Evergreen got stuck in the Suez Canal, much traffic stopped. We increasingly also share digital goods with each other and interact in digital markets. If we share health data, solutions within healthcare may come from unexpected people. We share nature as well, and we want to kind of ensure that we take care of it in a responsible way. Today, we have gathered 4 people that might help us just bring us a bit closer to understanding more about sharing data and how it can help AI startups. We have many questions and we're looking for answers. The participants will present themselves and share some of their experience building an AI ecosystem. The webinar ends in a plenary discussion on shared interests, challenges, and possibilities, and how we might get even better at sharing to build a vibrant AI startup research ecosystem. Great. First, we'll do a quick round of introductions. I will begin, followed by the introduction of each member of the panel. My name is Alex Moltzau, and I will be your host today. I work with AI policy and ethics at Nora. I work to provide an overview of national and international policies relating to the field of artificial intelligence. My educational background is within social data science, combining insights from social theories together with computational methods and data science techniques. I have a background from consulting in KPMG, starting up several organizations, and was the project leader of a co-working space in Oslo. First, let's hear from Brian West. Could you tell short with a sentence who you are?
Yes, I can actually also, let me just turn on my camera. My name is Brian West, and I am originally from the US, but I've been living now in Norway for about 17 years, working with IT consulting for the last 13, 14 years. But originally, I came to the US to play professional football with Fredrikstad. That's why I'm still living there. But I've been working with IT consultancy, like I said, with 17 years, within everything from development to project management to now working with data-driven innovation.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Brian. If we could now hear from Cynthia, could you tell a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Cynthia Lee, originally from Beijing, and recently I joined the ODI Medical, actually starting from February. So I'm still pretty new to the industry. I spent 7 years in the US for my master's degree study and then started working there. And I'm very looking forward to learning from the other speakers today about AI development. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I really appreciate that. Michael Riegler, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're a bit of a steadfast member of this panel. I guess it's kind of like with talk show hosts. If they find like one great speaker, they kind of keep inviting them back. So welcome back to Nora Startup. Could you tell a little bit about yourself again?
Hi, thanks a lot. Yeah, I hope people are not sick already of me. So I'm working at Simula as a researcher, and I'm mainly working on machine learning and medical related topics. And I'm really putting a lot of effort with the whole team on open science and open data.
That was very specific and concise. Helge Stubberud, who are you? What do you do?
Hello, my name is Helge. I work with IBM and is an architect in the technology group of IBM, working with delivering, designing solutions for clients within AI data management cloud. I think the reason for me being here today is for the last 4 years, I've been working with Aqua Cloud on a shared data platform for the aquaculture industry in Norway, and bring forward some experience from that engagement. And I've also written a thesis as part of executive master at NHH last year around Aqua Cloud. So that's a very short background. Been with IBM for too long. Yeah.
Too long. I think it was about 4 decades, if I'm not entirely incorrect. That's a long time to be working on data and information. So we're just going to have a quick round of presentations from our panelists before we enter the plenary discussion. And our first presenter today, I think, will be Brian. Brian, could you please tell us a little bit about what is Propeller, and especially Propeller Intelligence, perhaps? Let's see, Brian, if you can unmute, and then
Do you guys see my screen now?
Yeah, we do. Thank you so much.
Great. I will just spend a couple of minutes telling you about Propell, and then 2 projects that we are working on related to AI and data-driven innovation. Really quickly, Propell is actually a startup company that was started in late last year that is focusing on trying to help our customers solve their most challenging problems through the use of AI and machine learning. And one aspect of Propell, or one leg of Propell, if you will, is called Propell AI. And here we're working directly with an AI-driven accounting platform that I'll show you a couple of slides on later, that really aimed at increasing productivity by automating the tasks that accountants do prior to the approval process of different tasks and different line items in the accounting process workflow. This is an AI platform that is a solution that has been trained on a large data set that has been, I guess, gathered over the last 5 to 6 years. That have been audited by real accountants mimicking what they do, and then the AI solution has been working on top of that as going forward. And then we also have Propell Intelligence, which is the part of the organization that I lead, and we focus mainly on developing AI solutions for our customers in order to help them really take the power, harnessing the power of data. Everything from AI product development to advisory, data ops, machine learning ops, and then of course DevSecOps. And the last part of our company is actually a venture arm of the company, where we actually invest in other AI startup companies in order to make sure that they have a path to success through our Propell launch platform, which is what we like to call a unique studio-like operation for startup companies. One of the 2 of the products that I wanted to really focus on today is that we are working tightly with at Propell Intelligence and Propell Capital is a solution called Business Mind. And this particular solution is a AI development platform where we are aiming to provide I guess an easy means for companies to develop AI solutions in a simpler, traceable, and more ethical fashion. And here we're focusing on these 5 main pillars. One's around data preparation, how we use the platform to, I want to say, embrace all of our competence within data preparation in order to harness and gather the metadata so that it is available and actionable for our AI solutions that are going to be built on top of the platform. And then, of course, automation of the data integration. So here we are building numbers of data connectors to integrate to the company's data sources where they are, so that we're not moving the data sources, so that we aren't running into problems around being the data controller, data processing aspects of GDPR, but we're operating where the customer's data is, processing our AI applications in their environment, so that we are, avoiding some of the problems around data processing. And then, of course, there's a built-in MI model builder in the application. And then the 2 main areas that are really something that we are focusing on is the machine learning ops part of the platform, and then also built-in compliance and governance. So as part of our job that we're doing with this platform is to take into account the different regulations that are constantly being developed and changed, whether it's on a national level or a little bit higher scale in the European Union, or if we're working in the States on a national level there, or sometimes on a state level in the States. But building in different compliance and governance rules so that when we're developing the AI solutions and before they're getting pushed to production, that they are actually checked against the rules to make sure that we are compliant. And goes on to showing that the AI applications then are also transparent, and we're hoping to have checks and also in it to make sure that there's ethical checks on each of the AI applications that we are developing. And then another solution that we work with closely is called Vic AI, which is the AI accounting solution for accounting productivity that I mentioned to you earlier. And this particular solution, what it does is it receives incoming invoice information. It reads the line items on each of the invoice and the cost centers and the accounts, of course. And through our AI engine, we are then processing the invoices and then determining whether or not we have confidence enough in our AI predictions that we can approve the line items automatically, or they need to go through some human review interface process. So we spent a lot of time in perfecting and training our AI solution in this particular case against the thousands and thousands of rows of data, of real-time ERP data, in order to make sure that we've developed a world-leading AI solution in the accounting space to help accountants work more efficiently and effectively. Okay, I think if there's any questions, I can answer them a little later, but that's the short presentation that we've had on Propell and two particular items that we're working with within the AI space.
Thank you so much, Brian. That's really wonderful. From Propell to ODI Medical, could you please tell us a little bit about ODI Medical, Cynthia?
Yes, let me do a screen share.
If you could turn on your video as well, Cynthia.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yeah. So ODI Medical was founded in Oslo, and it's by Professor Knut. He's from his clinical years, decades before. He found from the practice when a patient, especially in the ICU, we think by monitoring the vital signs, we will be able to see the patient condition. But what really happened in the macro level is not consistent with the micro level circulation. And that's where the company is originally created to have a better way to monitor patients. So this is a graph to show macro and versus micro for people who are healthy. You can see they have, maybe this is a little bit too slow. They have these little loops. You will see the red cells carrying nutrients and the oxygen to the tissue and the cells, so people can get oxygen and nutrition. But here, for an unhealthy patient, then you can hardly see those very healthy loops. And that's something is missing in the macro, the big picture. You can only know if we are really getting enough oxygen or nutrition in the macro level. So what we do is that we have our device to be able to monitor the patient microcirculation. We have the microscope to detect the blood velocity and the capillary density. And we have the spectroscope to detect oxygen saturation. And we use AI in this microscope analysis. We map out the capillaries and their density and the velocity, and generate reports for clinician, healthcare professionals. And this is the team. Since I just joined the last February, so I will make this a very short presentation, but very excited to know from the other panelists as well, and answer your questions if you have.
Okay, thank you so much, Cynthia. It's really, you know, it's really an exciting company, and I think as well it's interesting if you know, Michael has been working with one of your researchers as well, I believe, one of your computer engineers. So I think he knows a little bit about your company as well, and it should be a really interesting discussion. So Helge, do you want to give us a little bit of information? You know, of course, for decades with IBM, but you now have a very strong focus on a specific project, and yeah, I'm really excited to hear more about it and your experience with data sharing later, of course. So take it away, Helge.
Yeah, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
So it's okay then. Thank you for inviting me to this session. It's always a challenge to speak for 6-7 minutes on a quite complex topic. What I wanted to dig into today is Aqua Cloud, partly because it takes up some interesting principles around data sharing. And also it's really a client we have worked with where we are allowed to talk about what they are doing, and of course I have been working with a lot of industries over the years. Some of them are quite sensitive, so then it's very hard to discuss those issues in a session like this. The diagram on top here is more or less a very simplified diagram. I derived it from Movi, who has a very good book on aquaculture, on the value chain from the hatcheries through the smolt and the growing of the fish in sea to the slaughtering process, distribution process, and until the fish is available in the retail chains. And of course, food production is a very important part of that the value chain. There are a lot of activities. I think for the average salmon, it's almost 2 years from the left to the right on the life cycle in this diagram. The Aqua Cloud project started out 4.5 years ago, focusing on prediction of sea lice. And what can be done there? There was 7 companies initially who brought their data, and we worked on the data, trying to standardize the data and build prediction model based on that. And we picked data from their ERP applications. They were distributed among 2 of them, FishTalk from Aqua Group and Mercatus from Scale. We had access to coastal models from Institute of Marine Research. There was some open data from Barents Watch, which is a website with data from all locations of salmon farming plants in Norway, and we also tested out a little bit of weather data, not very deep really in this phase. And of course, the sea lice issue itself, as you see on the salmon, it's in the sea. It's always been in the sea, but of course, when you have a lot of fish brought together, the probability for the sea lice to find salmon is very, very much bigger than just the wild salmon swimming back between the rivers and the open sea. So that's and it's a health problem for the fish, and it's a health issue for the wild salmon. And of course, as these farms are quite close to each other, at least some kilometers down there, you will get some. You will affect your neighbors. Externality problems. You will affect your neighbors if you have too much sea lice in your plant. And they are heavily regulated what the owner has to do if they get certain level of it, and the process of removing the sea lice is both very costly, and it's a major fish health problem. And it's estimated to cost the industry about between 5 and 10 billion Norwegian kroner per year. So it's a substantial. It's about and that is 7 to 8% of their revenues, which is the cost of sea lice. So that's really the essence of this issue. So what I wanted to take up in this call very briefly is about regulation. I mentioned the governmental regulations, but I wanted to take up the ownership of data, because I said we have 7 different companies, and they are during this time, they have been much more aware of the value of owning their own data. The industry is in that sense quite young, but for an industry to get together and trying to cooperate on sharing data for a common problem, it opens up a discussion what level of detail they can share data, what it can be used for, and we had to work a lot with agreements among the different farmers with the data. For the open data, it was much more simple. So and then of course we needed to join the different types of data, but the actual ownership of it. And the next level, when we're talking about AI and machine learning algorithms, it's about who is then owning the question of owning the models and the training of the models. It's another important discussion which we have come up to. What's happened with AquaCloud since the initial phases is now that they will try to make data available for third parties for using the data in other research projects, which is quite interesting topic for, let's say, this kind of session then. But that's more a next step, and we are working on that now. The other topic I really wanted to talk about is then trust, because one of the challenges we met when we were working with the prediction model was we discovered a lack of standardization, which made merging data from different companies hard. And of course, that will affect the trust they had in the models and in the training. So that was really the major inhibitor we met from this project was a discussion about trust in all the layers, let's say, from collection of data, organizing, analyzing, and then using the data. So the consequence of the lack of trust was really that I did not want to take the models into the production and make a business decision and take any benefits out from it. So I'm a little bit sad about that, short to say. How is I on time now, Alex?
You are sort of running shorter on time, but I guess I would really love to hear the rest. So if you have a little more to tell about it, I'm sure it's all right.
Yeah, because what I wanted to do also, next slide, what's happening, I'm doing this very quickly then. I didn't really want to dig into the technologies and infrastructure which IBM delivers into the environment here, but what AquaCloud has been doing then is starting out a standardization effort, because what I see is that to be more effective as an industry to communicate with different, let's say, technologies they're using, like feeding systems, sensors, pictures, video recognitions, which is now coming up for automatic lice counting, extremely important from a data quality point of view. So that has been a separate project within AquaCloud for the last 2 years. All the governance around data, that's very generic for all companies we are working with from IBM, and I expect everybody does. And the governance also relates to security, who has access to data, how is data used, and you have also the platform security levels that now, let's say, hackers, etc., can get into it. And the last topic, which we could really dig into, is everything about automation, from collecting data, from analyzing, retraining data, and then, of course, bringing the knowledge from the algorithms into the business processes, which is extremely important. And that's probably the hardest we see from IBM with running clients, is to take that final step into it. For the lice prediction, the most important factors for lice prediction were, of course, the current levels of lice. And of course, then with new data every day, we could then recalculate the prediction models continuously, and that's an important. So, and then you can bring it into a retraining process. So, and I think Brian in his presentation talked about, let's say, we call it AI ops from IBM. We call it data ops, so we use some of the same terminologies on that space. I think I will stop there, but it's a very, very brief introduction of issues in the aquaculture industry, and it's quite relevant for other industries as well.
Yes, of course. There's a lot to each of these projects that we will be able to explore a little bit more in the plenary discussion. I hope that you will get some good questions. Otherwise, I will ask the other panelists to ask you some good questions as well. Michael, tell us about open data. What do we need to know?
Good question. I'll share a bit how we work, so maybe that gives an idea, because we really believe, and there are a lot of researchers in computer science, especially, that really believe it's important to have open data and to have also reliable systems. So if you look at publications on transparent AI, you will see that it's important to explain what the AI systems do, but it's also important to be open and transparent about the whole pipeline, and data is an important part for that. Of course, sometimes this is not so easy especially if you have medical data. So what we do since some years now is we really try to make data open. Of course, we're also concerned about privacy and protecting sensitive data. So we only do that when we're sure that we can do that. So here you can see the Simula dataset page we built now, where we have several of our datasets open available. So it ranges from different things like sport videos to more medical things like colonoscopy videos and images. So what we try to do is over the years to come up with a standard so that all the datasets are described in the same way, that they are presented in the same way, that we provide the paper with each of the datasets so that people can really easily start working on it, and there is no barrier of kind of starting with the data we have. So we have this kind of a landing page on the Simula domain where we present all the data, and then in addition we put all our data on OSF, which is the open repository for open science, and there we have all the data, and it's like GitHub. So you see all the changes made. You can ask questions. So everything is totally open and reproducible, so that you can see here. We also have wikis there where everything is kind of described in a good way, and so on. So that's kind of for this dataset one example. And then the next one is this dataset papers that we try. So here's an example for the dataset paper for our biggest dataset. And we try to always give a background about what is it about for people that maybe not working in the domain, but interested to start working there, of course. Then some baseline kind of analysis where people can compare to and also get started if they kind of new in the field and don't really know where to get started. And then, of course, also really important to describe the data record. So to really describe the data, what is the good thing about the data, what are maybe disadvantages about the data, because all data sets have kind of some weak points and so on. So again, to be really open about all this. So what we usually also do then, all the source code we do in our work is usually described on GitHub and published publicly there. So we also try there to be really descriptive and open so that people can really use it, because sometimes some conferences and some journals require you to publish the source code of your publications, but you can also see that some people just throw something there which maybe is not really working and cannot be reused, which we think is okay, then you don't have to do it at all. So we try also there to be really descriptive and give examples about analysis and some code that people can get easily started, which you can see here as an example. And then, yeah, we also do a lot of competitions, which is especially important for companies. So here you see an example of competition about detecting images that were put together online in a wrong context. So you take an image of a, yeah, I don't know, a car crash that happened completely at a different place that where you want to talk about it, to just make your story sound better. And there, for example, we work with YouTube and they provide some data. So you can see that also big industry is very interested in these topics. And what that can do for industry is basically to give them access to researchers and maybe also new ideas and code for their products. And then we also do a lot of science competitions. So this is one initiative that we're supporting since 2013. So the medieval benchmark, and what we started in the medieval benchmark is a specific track on medical applications or medical multimedia. So there we have every year a kind of competition on some medical data where people can compare to each other, try out new data, share data sets, share code, and so on. So last year we had on sperm segmentation, for example. And then because a lot of people say, okay, medical data is hard to share, we cannot share our data. It's kind of, it's our secret in the company. But I think even there you can find way around just to make your kind of research and also product more transparent. And we're working on this big new thing, which is which we call deep synth body. So what we're trying there is to basically use generative models to build the complete human body from fake data. So fake data like people nowadays would use to fool other people in news or wherever. We want to kind of use this to build the complete body and make this really the whole framework and the whole concept open so that people all over the world can contribute. So what we have this deep synth body page where we already started putting out Python packages where people easily can produce their own synthetic data and do experiments on them. So here you see some examples from our Python package on the polyp generation. So you can basically generate as many images as you want from the human colon and also of polyps that you want to detect there. And of course, we also kind of want to prove that this data is useful. So we also publish studies where we show that, okay, with this synthetic data, you can actually reach the same amount of accuracy as you would with real data, or you can at least use the synthetic data to compare approaches between different companies or between different institutions so that you don't have to share your sensitive data. Yeah, so I think that was all.
Okay, great. I'm just gonna call back the panelists now, and so if Helge and Brian, if you could put on your camera. See.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Yes, brilliant. Okay, so I was just thinking, just out of curiosity to begin with, Brian, which companies have Propell invested in so far? Because I thought that was really, well, that's a different part of Propell, right?
Yeah, that's a different part of Propell, but we are investing in a number of companies, and one company, as I mentioned, was the Business Mind company, and another company that we are investing in heavily is within the energy space. So we'll be working with AI to really help companies to offset their carbon footprints. So we're looking at companies within the AI space that are helping to drive an impact. helping to increase effectiveness, reduce the impact that we're having on our country. Because again, we want to be a part of this movement that is pushing the world to being a better place through the help of AI.
Yeah, I see. I think like this impact aspect and open data is relatively closely connected, perhaps. And I was just wondering about Helge. You said there was a kind of lack of standardization and trust to some extent. How are you working to address this? You know, and like how can we proceed and go forward in a way?
Examples of that, we run a separate project with one of the farmers on food optimization, and we found out it was extremely difficult. The feeding machines collected a lot of information which were very hard to get out. So what they're doing then is to standardize, building up a sensor and machinery standard, so that all, let's say, technical vendors to the aquaculture industry delivers APIs in the same format independently of, let's say, the vendor then. Because currently it's very hard. It's a lot of manual effort to take out, let's say, all the details from equipment which are used on the farms, and some of the farms are quite old, so you could have equipment there which is 20-25 years old, of course, and of course some of the software in that equipment can be modernized, but you don't have to change the equipment, but that's kind of issues. So it's partly awareness of standards and partly then establishing the standards for the industry, and they're working also, AquaCloud is working then with Standard Norge on that.
Could I just ask a question to
let's see. Yeah, so I think Brian, if you could ask that question again, just briefly.
Can you hear me really quick?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying that I was wondering with Helge if he's seeing the same thing, that equipment makers aren't really opening up access readily to sharing of the data, because they want to own the data in terms of monetizing the data that they own on the equipment, and not allowing it to be shared freely. Are you seeing the same thing?
Oh yeah, and it's a big difference between, let's say, the larger companies who really is aware that they want to own their own data independently who is bringing in the equipment, while the smaller companies, they just accept that the equipment vendor of the equipment can own the data. So the discussion of ownership in that space is and we saw the same when we were working with the oil and gas industry many years ago, in the same there, and some companies like to own the data they capture for the clients, so to say.
Exactly.
Yeah, I guess as a researcher, Michael, you kind of encounter these data ownership issues as well. What is your experience with that?
Yeah, so it's the same also in the medical industry, especially. So usually the vendors are required that you can export the data from their systems. So they have to do that, but they make it really a tedious task. So for example, there is videos from colonoscopies. Some systems, they only allow export in real time. So if you have hundreds of hours of videos, you sit there forever just to export the data, and the data is there on the hard drive, but it's encrypted, so you cannot get it. And if you ask them, it's like, no, you have the export function, just use it. So it's like making it difficult by design.
Yeah, I see. So I guess one question is ownership, and one question as well is, the manner of sharing, and like how easy you make it to share data.
Yeah.
But onwards to that, from sharing to compliance, because Brian, you mentioned that you were kind of also working with these kind of compliance issues. Which kind of compliance issues did you encounter, while building this platform and building this product as well?
Yeah, so with the platform, of course, we're building this platform so that businesses in various industries can utilize the platform for producing AI applications. So you have everything from personal data that needs to be safeguarded and make sure that you're compliant with GDPR, and then also you have this movement. And I think I saw a question being asked about accountability and transparency, and I can take that as well. I think with the Vic AI platform that we have, that we're working with, and has been developed over last 4 years being, it's been integrated with some of the largest ERP systems, both here in Norway with Visma's ERP system, with Xledger, different ERP systems around the world. They have had to be very careful in terms of, one, training the AI solution to be as accurate as possible, but then also incorporating traceability into the platform. So there's obviously an audit trail that's being created. There's obviously also accounting industry is one of the ones that gets audited all the time, right? So being able to understand where the data is coming from and then the actions that the AI solution takes is something that needs to be built into the system so that you avoid some of the problems going down the road.
Yeah, I think there might be some things to learn from the auditing and accountability there, in terms of at least that there is a really established practice to some extent within finance, that there are so many requirements to some extent to sharing, so to speak. But Michael, I think we had a question from the audience that you answered in the Q&A, but I just wanted to raise it because kind of beyond, I guess, this compliance as well, it's also kind of what kind of principles in relating to accessibility. So the question is, I assume when you say open, you mean mostly accessible. Are you planning to meet FAIR principles in your open data repository? So could you tell us about these FAIR principles, Michael, and how do you meet those in?
Yeah, FAIR principles is basically about open scientific data, and also, so you basically want to make sure that you can find it, that it's easy to access, easy in terms of interoperability, and also the reuse should be really easy to do. And that's something we see in our experience a lot, that scientific data is shared, but it's shared in a really bad way. So you kind of share it so that it's already gets hard to be used. Yeah, often if you try to reproduce results, you see that the data is missing or it's impossible to reproduce and this kind of thing. So I think there are very few, even in scientific community, institutes and people that really follow these principles. It's kind of understandable too, because it's a lot of work. So if you really want to make your data accessible, shareable, reusable, you have to spend some effort into making it really that way. You have to publish your code. I think it's tightly connected to open science and reproducible science, because I don't want to accuse anyone, but there are some of the science that we see nowadays, especially in AI, is not really reproducible or reliable at all. So I'm really critical about research in AI that is not kind of coming with open data and open source code, because you can never verify. So for me, it's almost like useless research if you don't if you're not open about the whole process from data to the end.
I guess that's the broader challenge to some extent, is that as Helge and Brian were saying, this data ownership is so important for a lot of companies as well. But to be able to verify and to be able to trust it, to some extent we need openness and we need accessibility, right? So and I think maybe if it was easier for companies to feel secure about sharing of the data and to raise that trust. But I want to bring another question forward that's more based on Aqua Cloud. So I think this is addressed clearer than to Helge. So in regards to data fusion analytics based on data provided by the clients, or also provide HV, sensors, DHQ, WAN, it was not a very well formulated question perhaps, but maybe you have a good answer to that in terms of, I guess it's more broadly speaking, maybe detection and provision of data to some extent.
I'm not sure if I catch the question really, but let's say the principle from a data point of view, since the data owners allowed us to use their sensitive, business sensitive data, because the data is business sensitive, because if the database of Aqua Cloud holds information for these farmers, so the biomass they have, you know the size of the fish if you have the detailed access. So in that sense, you could use it for, let's say, prediction of prices. So we had a concept of NDAs for the data scientists working on this across the different farmers, and then the farmers got access to their results afterwards, and that was sensitive again. So we had let's say the process there. I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but that's one part of it when we worked with the sensitive data from a, let's say, and then building shared knowledge from data which is sensitive for each company. I'm not sure if I addressed your question.
Yeah, I guess it's a more like a technical question relating to data acquisition in wide area networks. I'm not entirely sure whether you answered it either, but it wasn't
no.
the best formulated question. So I think we just proceed.
Yeah, but okay, but actual data capturing is to set up either that you go out and connect to the data sources, or you use an API kind of mechanism to transfer it. We have not started out with let's say high volume kind of data sources, like for example, if you have video cameras into AquaCloud directly, where you need totally different technologies with high volumes. Or we have other clients where we are doing that, of course, but not in AquaCloud. So there are techniques for that. I think the technology today can solve more or less an issue with any, let's say, latency requirement you have on data. If you really want, it's not a technical issue in that sense. It's just to use the right technology for the right, let's say, requirements of data acquisition.
Right. Yeah, I want to get a little bit back to maybe edge computing and artificial intelligence with Michael after this. But first, there's a question for Brian. Involving AI in activities like automatic account management raises the questions of AI accountability. Do you have any provisions for that? Any way to hold AI accountable? That was the question from the.
Yeah, and that's again a little bit what I talked about earlier in terms of holding AI accountable. So built into our into the systems that we have developed and working with Big AI, there's audit trail functionality, and then of course, as I mentioned, we have based our AI platform on audited, approved accounting work over the vast number of years. So the confidence that we have in our AI solution is very high, but the user is also given the ability to review the work at any point in time in order to make sure that the tool is doing what it's supposed to do. So I would say that we built in the accountability into the platform itself.
Great. I think you have a comment on this, Helge.
Yes, I just wanted to say that especially within governmental sector in Norway, when we have clients, they're asking for this capability all the time because, well, for example, the tax administration, if they're doing their decisions made based on algorithms, they need to explain you as a taxpayer how have they calculated this for you. Otherwise, they are not allowed to do it. So we are meeting this requirement quite a lot in the market, really, especially in the governmental industry.
And again, and that's why I think it's important that you build these type of accountability by design into the platforms, into the solutions, so that you're thinking about this when you're developing these solutions.
Yes, I think that goes perfectly into another audience question because this is from Lars Ailobongo, so I know he's engaged in AI startups as well. So he says, sensitive medical data is very hard to get access to, but there are some public initiatives that maybe attempt to solve this, like Helsedata-plattformen. What is your opinion about these Norwegian initiatives? And do you know countries that have succeeded in making their sensitive public data sets available for industry? I see this as an open question, but this is kind of, I think, addressed a bit to you as well, Michael.
I think every try to make this work for health data is really important. What I'm a bit worried about is if it's always a bit brought in context with this will be the new oil, because that already puts a barrier there that shouldn't be there. In my opinion, health data is for the whole human race, so we should share it between all of us to improve our own kind of lives. It shouldn't be limited to countries or whatever. Of course, it's not so easy, but there are new technologies like edge computing or policy-driven data sharing and so on that could really allow us to do this sharing in a in a possible way. So I think a lot of these barriers, they are a bit kind of artificial. And there's also in the medical research community, there's also this really strong belief that data is kind of important for the success in publishing, which then often hinders the sharing of the data, even if it would be possible. It's like, okay, we could share this, but no, we collected this data, we want to publish next year's on this and so on. So I think there are a lot of artificial barriers. And we have really good experience in working internationally on highly sensitive data, where we use edge computing, for example, and it works. So I think this kind of a bit outdated tale that is really hard to work internationally on health data is not really true, because technology can support this.
Mm.
Yeah, there was an audience commentary. It seems like everyone agrees that data should be openly shared, but they often don't want to do it themselves. So, a bit of, I guess, challenging there. But
yeah, I think that the thing is, you just have to let it go. It's, of course, we have we had data that we shared, and then people published in Nature, and we could say, oh shit, why did we not do it ourselves? But that's not the point. Then you should just share for everyone, so that, okay, if someone else does so good research that they can publish in Nature, wow, that's perfect. Then we help everyone with that. I think you have this kind of, you have to let it go. It's like, okay, this is my child. I brought it up to this age, and now I let it go and explore the world.
Yeah, an audience member mentioned that that kind of new standards that are being made, just referring back to a bit of like standardization there, Helge, as well, that they're kind of made that share can happen without losing ownership as a guiding thought. Also, kind of there are techniques that are kind of proposed, like federated learning. You know, there's a lot of like different types of approaches. I think synthetic data is, of course, really interesting as well, and like what you mentioned there previously, Michael, is quite fascinating. But how do we address this? You know, like specifically, what ways do you actively work now to address these issues? This is a really open question. Whoever answers first.
Well, I can just take it just shortly. What we are looking to, we haven't tackled the question around health data, but industry data, trying to get companies to share industry data so we can create better AI applications that have a larger data footprint to work with, a data set to work with, is something that we are trying to get done. But again, as we've said before, it's still this part about, you know, am I letting go some of my secrets to the competition in order to gain insights? And that's something that we're challenged, that we're trying to actively debate against. And it's for the greater good if we can aggregate data to a much higher level with a larger data set.
Thank you, Brian. Do you have any other thoughts on this topic, Michael or Helge? Helge, it seems. Yeah.
I must admit, I've been working mostly with anonymized and anonymized data, not so much synthetic data. And we discussed it a little bit with the seafood industry. And of course, back to the trust of synthetic data, I think we need even larger volumes of data to really benefit from synthetic data. I think you need a certain level of volume to really make it at a quality where you can use it for, let's say, AI kind of use cases. But I don't have any experience on it. So it's a very interesting topic where is the, let's say, break even for using synthetic data.
Yeah, I think there are some new challenges as well with GDPR, considering the kind of the line they've drawn in the sand in terms of what is. But I guess, as you said, you know, if it's fish, that might be a different question in terms of data than if there's a human being and their body. So, but I think we are drawing closer to finishing this webinar, and I was thinking it kind of, this brings us nicely forward to asking kind of what role should Nora Startup have. You know, perhaps Nora Startup could facilitate more data sharing. Like if they were to do so, how would they do it? You know, or more broadly speaking. So that just to be again iterate, what role should Nora Startup have in this? And maybe if you want to go first, Michael.
Yeah. So I think what could be an important role is actually to support companies and people that want to share their data, because sometimes they just don't know how to do it. They are afraid that they do something wrong from a law point of view, or they don't know what is the best way or which technologies to use. So there it could be really helpful to help and support people like that. So we do that sometimes for scientific data, because some people don't know how should I really anonymize my data to be sure that I do it correct. What are the best platforms, what are good principles, and so on. So I think just providing this knowledge can be already really helpful. Of course, I would also dream from you hosting your own data sharing platform and helping people doing this even more actively, but I guess that's a bit large scale.
Yeah, Brian, I think what do you think on this topic?
No, I think the last comment by Michael would be a dream, right? So we have a actor like Nora to host large data sets from a large share of data sets from different companies and different industries would be a dream. And of course, you do find a lot of public databases of publicly accessible data that companies you do see a movement of companies trying to find ways to share more and more data, but it's it's not structured and it's not uniform by any means. But there is data out there to be found that is being shared, but I would like to see it just in a more uniform manner.
Yeah, and as Michael mentioned in the chat here, Paper with Code is a great service too, and I think there are some interesting platforms and projects in Norway. More broadly, Datafabrikken, the data factory, is now probably going to see what they can do in terms of industry and data sharing collaboration. And also, I think we're having several conferences, research conferences, and we're thinking about how we can do like data set competitions. That's I think that would be very exciting. But furthermore, Helge, what can we do?
Well, I think it's a very interesting question, and it was a seafood innovation cluster who started out with AquaCloud a few years ago. I followed that. I've been seeing other clusters in different places, and I know that from my experience working with colleagues internationally, Norway is quite innovative in sharing. I think things we have done at AquaCloud is very, very hard to get to. I've been on some international conferences. The industry in Chile, Canada, etc., will not do the same if you hear about other industries. So Norway have a culture for sharing, and if you have, let's say, clusters like seafood cluster, you have Nora, you have other clusters to make, let's say, cluster of clusters. Much shorter lines between these clusters, so you have some common interests within a cluster, and then you have very, very easy to communicate with other clusters. And in that sense, you make some sort of network organization type, which can be quite effective on data then. And seafood, focus on seafood, that line. You get what I'm getting to, but I believe in that approach. And that each cluster should not have the ambition to do everything by themselves. They need to cooperate with other clusters. It's very important.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really, really wonderful, and also I have to thank you so much for attending today. We went a few minutes over time, but it was really, it was fascinating, and clearly you all have so much experience, and we are so glad that you came here to share this with all the attendees of today's webinar. So thank you so much, and hopefully maybe see you again. Michael keeps coming back, and we like having him so much as a speaker here. So who knows? I think we'll see each other around regardless. And yeah, and
Thanks.
Have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having me. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.